idea is more important than a brand. Target audience on one platform to create those engagement and have those emotional connections.
Why are B2B brands not taking the similar route as a B2C brand?
To create a smarter planet, you need smarter technologies, but the brand also needs to have a rational component.
What do you think from this whole point of humanizing B2B brands?
Easy to associate your brand with the human. Intel is bought by the OEMs, not even by any consumers.
Yeah.
I think it's important for marketing folks to be creative. The results of a performance marketing will be very different from the results of the brand. Encompasses of everything, your customers, your employees, your partners, your vendors, everything. It's important to tell the brand story to their consumers.
Hello everyone and welcome to yet another episode of B2B Marketing Podcast, brought to you by B2B World Summit and powered by Brand Story Digital. I am your host Saikat Das Mohanty. जो दिखता है वो बिकता है. This is a line that has been used in the context of consumer brands a lot. Today's episode, Standing Out in a Noisy Market, explores how humanizing B2B brands can make them more relatable and engaging. So today with us we have Vinod Kumar, Senior Vice President and Head of Global Marketing at 24/7 AI. Hi Vinod, welcome to B2B Marketing Podcast and very happy to have you here. And before we begin, why don't you just share some of your thoughts from this entire journey of yours in marketing?
Yeah, thanks Saika, thanks for having me here. So, I've spent about 25 years in marketing. Of course, the initial part of my experience have been with advertising agencies where I've learned a lot about advertising, messaging, creative, brief, so on and so forth. I think that's a good foundation, I feel, personally for me. And I've spent about, I would say, over a decade there. And then, of course, I moved to the brand side after that. So I was inspired by so many leaders who I work with, thought leaders today they are. In the advertising, in the B2B marketing space and things like that. And I've learned quite a bit from those, and I've been able to use all of that experience here, my learnings, my experience in the brand side, and I've spent about 15 years on the brand side. And some of the campaigns that stood out then and even continue to inspire me and some other marketers is, of course, one of the examples is IBM Smarter Planet example.
Yeah.
It's amazing how a B2B technology brand, its technology selling is boring, right? That's how everybody perceives as. Yeah. It's amazing how this brand came out with a concept called, let's create a smarter planet, right? And then to create a smarter planet, you need smarter technologies, you need the cities need to be smarter, the people need to be smarter. It's amazing how they tied the whole story to be smart,
right?
And how they brought in that emotional aspect, human aspect, the purpose-led marketing, right? That's what this brand has done it. And another brand that I could think of is that Amex Open Forum. It's done by American Express. This campaign was to bring the SMB owners together on a single platform, share their ideas, exchange the solution, products, and create a whole lot of community. And initially they did not even do branding. It was just an open forum. It was not even, nobody knew it's going to be, nobody knew it was, Amex. But ultimately, right, they brought the SMB owners together and then they just had a small little line that's powered by Amex, right? So that's how some of these brands, kind of created that emotional connect, brought everybody, the target audience on one platform to create those engagement and have those emotional connections.
Right. That's interesting. And I really, I think, IBM, brands like IBM, Amex and all, while they bring in the emotion part of it, but they don't do it over, too much, which is very good, very subtle way, as you said, powered by American Express. That in itself, is a very great way to associate with you, with a program which is for business owners and all. And obviously, business owners really
absolutely
love that. So I think that's a great.
It's also
idea,
that it also tells you the story that tells you that the idea is more important than a brand, right?
Exactly, exactly.
It's not really selling. You're not really selling. You're actually genuinely creating a community where people can come together and exchange their views and exchange their ideas and eventually part of that brand, right?
Correct. That's a good way to do it. I think for B2B brands, it's a great way to start. So with that as a context, and I think that leads us to our discussions also. What we have seen till now, B2C brands, if you look at B2C brands, they've been very emotional, okay, and they really always try to create something or try to communicate something which is very emotional, okay, and really touches you as a consumer. But when it comes to B2B brands, okay, we are I think B2B brands are very functional. They are very to the point that, okay, there's a problem, this is my solution, and this is what I need to do, okay, and this is what I give, okay. So in your years of experience and of working, how have you seen, or what do you think is the difference between a B2B and a B2C, brands communication? Why are B2B brands, I won't say scared, but why are B2B brands not taking the similar route as a B2C brand? Why are they not being emotional?
Yeah, so I mean, B2B brands have that leverage of, they have the freedom, I would say, to tell a story in a better way, right? They're more emotional, they use humor, a lot of things,
right?
Because I think the B2C brands go about doing campaigns. I think the decision makers or the target audience are maybe like one or two, right? When you compare that to a B2B brand, right? B2B brand gets very rational. They also try to get emotional. However, I think there's a rational component is very high on B2B brands because there are multiple stakeholders. There's not one stakeholder. If somebody has to buy a product, there is multiple stakeholder. That's one. When there is multiple stakeholders, each of them have different priorities, right? So it's difficult. The emotional aspect is there because at the end of the day, B2B is also talking to a person. If there are 5-7 stakeholders, you're still talking to a person. So that emotional play can be there. I firmly believe that even in B2B, the storytelling has an opportunity. The emotional driven campaigns have an opportunity. But will that help to make a decision? May not. But will that help to have a brand recall? Yes, it will. Right? So in B2B, people don't make decisions, in my view, right? Just based on pure emotions. I love the brand, but the brand also needs to have a rational component,
correct,
right? Whether it fits into my scheme of things, my purchase for this year, so on and so on. So a lot of things matter, but I think there is still a creative play, storytelling play. There is still an emotional play with B2B as well. A lot of brands have done it. I could take an example. There's a brand called Adobe, right? So they have this campaign called Creative for All.
Yeah.
Right, Adobe sells it to only B2B, but at the end of the day, the product is used by creative people in the organization.
Yeah.
So they only talk to those people. They talk less to the brand, right? So they make it, instead of just talking about plain features and AI components, the campaign is all about how can you get inspired and create great designs, how can you get inspired and bring in design thinking, creative thinking in your work, how can you go think out of the box. These are all messages that this brand does is for individuals,
right?
Because at the end of the day, individuals are the ones who are using B2B brand as a, they just make a purchase decision,
right?
So this is one example. So there's a lot of opportunity to be creative there, so on and so forth, right?
When you spoke about Adobe, and I think one brand which is coming up in my mind, which is very recent also, is the Canva brand.
Absolutely.
So Canva has recently started doing some very interesting communication, and they're also talking to the same, the creators, people who are creating and all. And again, it's a service. Okay, they are providing a platform for creators to create content or creatives and all of that. So it's a service. So they just need to talk about. They could have actually gone and talked about only about the product and what they can do with that. But the way they have kind of communicated, I think it's very, very interesting. I think really I like that example of Adobe.
It's also the Canva. They've been very consistent in that approach.
Exactly.
Right? Canva, I think I know them 10 years back, or maybe like 8 years back, but they were not making so much noise.
Correct.
Then compared to now.
Yes.
Of course, thanks to the AI, there's a lot of opportunity for them, but they've always been consistent in talking to the customers, communicating their purpose, communicating their idea of why you should use Canva. So they've been very consistent. This is one of the things that B2B brands also, storytelling does not mean that you come out with like one campaign every 5 years, every 2 years. You need to be very consistent in your approach. And then of course the target audience know that, okay, some of the values of the brand is matching my values. Maybe I should get associated with that brand. That those kind of things will come into play, and it will be on the top of the mind recall.
Before you mentioned about IBM, they do great work, Smarter Planet, and I think overall they've been doing great work. Adobe has done a great work. But don't you think, these are big brands and they have been in the industry for like many, many years, everything started kind of Adobe, IBM, a lot of things started with them. And today they have the liberty to actually go and talk be a bit emotional and do a good storytelling, and not just talk about their products and functional values. What about new age brands or brands which are very small, which are not known yet? Don't you think, if they get into the storytelling mode right now, they might lose the, battle in terms of business and all of that, because they're not talking about any functional. So how do you see that getting balanced here?
So you mentioned that, of course, brands like big brands like Adobe, IBM, MX, all of them, it's fairly easy for them to come out with campaigns like that. Maybe they have the budgets and so on and so forth. They can invest on brand and also invest on demand generation and performance marketing. They can have a better mix in terms of the marketing strategy. But in my opinion, I think the new age brands, of course, at the end of the day, it is what the brand wants out of their consumers, right? If they feel that, the brand needs to stand out for something, I think that's important to communicate that. See, at the end of the day, I always feel that people buy products, they also buy the value of the brand, they also buy, what the brand stands for. All of that combines, right? It's a combination purchase, right? So it's important to, if the brand's goal is that, it's important to keep doing it in smaller fashions. Right? So of course there is a marketing mix that you can always do. You can spend X on brand, you can spend Y on demand generation and performance marketing. I think, but brand play is very, very important, because at the end of the day, the brand encompasses of everything: your customers, your employees, your partners, your vendors, everything. It's important to tell the brand story to their consumers.
Got it. That's a great thing that you mentioned. Brand play is really, really important. Obviously, whether it's a small brand or it's a large brand, doesn't matter. Okay. To that, one thing that is coming into my mind again is I've been hearing a lot about this. When I attended a recent events and all of that, this has been spoken about a lot for B2B brands. Is that humanizing B2B brands is the most important thing right now. Okay, and while I understand we need to have a rational and emotional play, which is important, but what do you think from this whole point of humanizing B2B brands? Do we really need to focus on that kind of aspect, or create a storytelling in a very different fashion? What do you think? Even from your experience that you have seen, and any examples that any brand which has done really great stuff, and when it comes to humanizing its brand.
So I think it's important for a brand, when you're creating messages, when you're coming out with campaigns, at the end of the day, you're talking to a person. When you're talking to a person, it's important, to have that flavor of human, the human factor. It's very important, because brands talk to humans at the end of whether it's B2B or whether it's B2C, right? So I could, talk about an example where, it's a technology brand like Salesforce, right? It's a CRM brand at the end of the day. There are so many CRMs that is available today, right? Which, well, like a lot of people choose Salesforce over other CRMs, right? So Salesforce, if you look at the Salesforce journey, I think they focused they never talked much about the technical aspects, the specifications, all of that. They talked about how we can make an impact to the organization.
Right.
One of their campaigns is a Dreamforce campaign, right? Dreamforce, Trailblazers and Dreamforce, right, where they're connecting the purpose, the humanization and so on and so forth, right? So there is opportunity, right? The marketers needs to think more creative, how you can humanize your brand. At the end of the day, it's always easy to associate your brand with the human. Those are some of the things that we also learn in our advertising. This thing. So it's really good if brands can apply this human first approach.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Kind of agree. The moment you put a face or moment you kind of relate it to a human, I think it's more relatable, more engaging. And you gave an example of Salesforce. I love the way they have created those 3 characters.
Absolutely.
So 3 or 4 characters that they have created, and each character is representing a certain service of theirs. And the way they actually communicate, I think in the B2B space, I think they are very, very interesting, very colorful, very, very relatable also. So I really love that. It stands out and exactly, it stands out very, very nicely. So I really love the way Salesforce has actually used create
even
these
if you
things.
go to the website and see, they don't talk about the technical specifications. Maybe the sales guy talks about the technical specification while selling it, but otherwise, if you look at the website, it's all about making an impact to the organization, making an impact to people, work faster, work smarter. There's a lot more. These are all human aspects of the brand.
Correct.
And they talk about this in various forums.
Correct. And I think that's really working for them. Okay. And I also think that that's a kind of learning probably they have taken from consumer brands. How to humanize your brand, but not humanizing your brand or not putting a face in a very, very different way, but making it relatable also. Okay.
Absolutely.
So in that context. You've also would have worked on a lot of B2C brands. You'd have seen a lot of B2C communication and all. B2B brand today are way behind how B2C communication happens, but we are still, I think, they're still coming forward now. So, what do you think? In your experience and in your understanding, what are the learnings that you would have taken from B2C brands and then get it implemented on B2B brands from a context of B2B brands?
Of course, there are a lot of things that one can draw inspiration from B2C brands. I think one of the things is, apart from the storytelling methodology, apart from coming out with creative campaigns, I think influencer marketing is something that is really close to what a B2B brand is doing compared to the B2C brand. Of course, they hire B2B brands associate themselves with the famous personalities, but B2B brands have a challenge, of course, in terms maybe the budget doesn't permit, or maybe it's difficult for somebody for a brand to sign up somebody for years, so on and so forth. But the influencer marketing, I think that is something that B2B brands have done really well. For example, Salesforce, right? Rahul Dravid is being used as a brand ambassador, right? And then there's also Accenture, which they've used Tiger Woods in the past as well,
they have used
right? And they've used him extensively to communicate a personality, right? There's a personality behind the brand, right? So the influencer marketing, of course, there is depending on your marketing mix, depending on your strategy, whether you have an Instagram strategy or whether you have a LinkedIn strategy. Based on that, you can use those influencers to kind of communicate your messages and to basically be the face of your brand,
right?
And some of the brands like HP or SAP, I think they've used their employees as their advocates. Even at 24/7 where I work, we've done extensive work on employee advocacy program, be it for employer branding or be it for for customer advocacy, where the engagements have gone up by 4x. This is some of the things that brand can do, B2B brands can do, use their employees as advocates to push a content on LinkedIn or social media or even at events, so on and so forth. These are some of the learnings that we could do it in B2B.
You mentioned about influencer, okay, and I'll talk from my experience also. I find it a little difficult when it comes to B2B influencers, okay. because as we said, as we say, B2B brands are very rational and very functional, because there is a product and the purchase decision is also made by many people.
Yeah, many stakeholders, many buying groups.
Yeah, unlike B2C brands where I can have a micro or a macro influencer, and easily, can sway the audience. But when it comes to B2B, while influencer marketing is a great way, I think it also requires a lot of research and a lot of understanding to do and pick up the right influencers. Okay, we can't just have anybody and anyone coming and becoming influencer and talking about our brand, because they might not be they might not be talking the right thing, or they might be talking because they've been paid for, but in reality they might not be following the same thing. So that's one of my learning when we were trying to do some kind of influencer activity. So that's, I think, very important. So I think for B2B marketers, that's very important.
There should be a qualification
there has
process.
To be qualification.
You need to really think through, right? Yeah. You are giving your brand to somebody else.
Right.
Even if you're telling your employees to talk about your brand, you are giving your brand to the employees' hands.
Yes.
And that's a risk, right? That's also an opportunity.
Yeah.
So to know how people are perceiving your brand, right? But there should be a qualification process. You have to choose your influencer wisely, right? But at the end of the day, what are you choosing the influencer for? If you're just choosing an influencer just to pump up your likes and engagement, then you need to have that kind of a qualification. If you're choosing an influencer who can tell your brand story more effectively, right, to his audience, and his audience is something that your brand can relate to. So you need to have those kind of qualification process, and one should not hurry just because somebody has got a 5 million XYZ on Instagram or YouTube.
Exactly.
One should not just go, just go and sign them up. You need to be very careful because you are putting your brand out there, right? So it's very important.
And also for B2B brands, I think the best or the key influencers are your thought leaders. One is your thought leaders from the brand itself. People who are part of policy making and things, and when they speak about certain things, people listen. And the second one is your own clients.
Absolutely, I was coming to that. Yeah.
They are the biggest influencers, because they're already working with you, and if I'm not using them to the fullest in terms of they coming and talking about my services and my products, then I think I'm not and I'm going and looking outside, then I think that's a big mistake. I think B2B marketers need to start looking at that from an influencer marketing from that angle, and not just going and hiring people from outside.
Yeah, there's nobody who's a better influencer than your customer.
Correct.
Because he's bought your product or a solution, he's tried it, he's happy. That's the reason why he wants to talk about the brand. So of course that's where the customer advocacy program come into play. And then that's where if customers are willing to talk about you, that's where you can say that you've gone from being a vendor to a partner.
Correct.
That's also that you have humanized your brand.
Correct. Yes, that's humanizing your brand.
Absolutely.
Because your customer is the human there, and they're talking about you. Absolutely. We spoke about all of these facts, and you also spoke about Rahul Dravid, and that was a very interesting twist that Salesforce, I think, brought in. Probably Rahul Dravid being called as Mr. Dependable. I think that's how probably Salesforce as a brand. I think that's a very good way to also, tell customers that we are the most dependable CRM partner that you can
imagine. You're like $1 billion organization, and you have a Salesforce. And you can imagine how much of your company's content is going to be financials, content, your data, right? So of course the CRM needs to be dependable, right? And it kind of relates well to the brand ambassador they've chosen. One of the things that I feel, because I don't know, but that's what we could kind of just carry that from whatever they've chosen.
Correct. So what I'm getting from you here is that humanizing a brand does not just mean I pick up somebody and somebody is coming, but it is also about the traits of that person, the qualities of that person which really kind of align with the brand's vision. Because other than that's how humanizing the brand is important. Is that what correct in my
Absolutely.
understanding?
See, I mean, these influencers are all paid at the end of the day, right? As much as possible, as a marketer, you need to be. If you have the qualification process, out of 10 points, if the influencer is meeting like 7 or 8, I think you've done your job.
Yeah.
But I think you should not just blindly select somebody just because you want to, it needs to be a part of your strategy.
Correct.
It needs to be a part of your overall brand strategy.
Right.
Can I get these people who can influence the brand, who can enhance my brand image, brand value? Those are things are very important. Perfect.
So that I think that those are some really interesting points that are there. We spoke about influencer marketing now. What are the other things that you think really helps in standing out in a market like this?
I think I've said this before. I think content is very important.
Yeah.
Right. And then content in short forms. Right, such as videos, right? Those infographic, those things are very important, but it should not get technical. If it gets technical, then it's there's so much content is available. Why would somebody wants to consume your content? Because imagine every product says we are the top class.
Correct.
Every solution says we have a top class. We have great solution, right? If you look at the communication, if you compare it with like 5-10 brands, everybody says the same thing. What stands out is very important. So you need to have that unique content that's going out to your consumers who can consume the content. So your differentiators, your content, those things matter, right? Then most of the other things is regular content, right? So of course videos is another great medium to communicate your product, demos, your what does your product stand for? Why should somebody buy, and how does it change their life? So this is some of the mediums that one can use.
Got it.
Right? And again, I go back to that. Brands, B2B brands need to be consistent in their approach. That mix has to be there. They're consistent in communicating the story, the messages. Then I think you will see more impact.
When it comes to B2B brands are very focused on return on ROI.
Yes.
Whatever I invest, I need a return on that. So how does brand storytelling and humanizing brands, B2B brands, really help in ROI? Anything that any view you have on that?
Yeah, so for a B2B brand or for any brand, the ROI is very important, right? So one needs to understand that if you're doing a brand campaign, what is the ROI that you can get? You have to differentiate.
Right.
Versus what you're doing, let's say if you're doing a performance marketing, what is the kind of results that you need? If you're doing a demand generation, what is the kind of, right? It's important to draw results under each of these marketing tactics.
Got it.
Right? Like if you say that I'm going to run ads on LinkedIn, of course that can give you a better ROI than creating content. And if you expect ROI by creating content and pushing videos, you can't expect the same ROI.
Yeah.
The results of a performance marketing will be very different from the results of the brand. But at the end of the day, as an overall brand, right? If you're spending something on brand, you know what is the ROI is going to be. If you're spending something on performance marketing, you know what the ROI is going to be. As long as you've been able to differentiate between these marketing tactics and communicate that to your stakeholders, I think that's a fair approach, is what I think.
Right. And the ROI also will come at a different stages. Performance marketing, you can expect an ROI immediate. Yeah. Whereas when it comes to brand campaign, the ROI is not necessarily a short-term ROI. It can be a long-term ROI.
Absolutely. Right? I mean, imagine like somebody comes to your website, hey, I've heard about you last year, but you did something like this. Yeah. I want to engage with you, and then you engage with them, and he signs a $10 million deal. Yeah. Right, so it's a brand play. It's pure brand play. It didn't come from any of those ads that you did, or maybe the LinkedIn. I've heard about you. I met somebody in the last year's conference, and I want to talk to you now. Yeah. So that's not really that's not pure performance marketing play or demand generation. Of course, events would have been a part of your demand generation strategy, but the person remembered you for a year and then he came to you. So that's a brand play, in my view.
So I think the brands need to have a strategy of a long-term and a short-term kind of a play, wherein the long-term is about creating the brand over a period of time, which is where you can do all your brand storytelling. And short term is more of a, giving those short bursts which can help you drive your business.
Absolutely.
I think.
Yeah.
And that combination needs to be there, which probably B2B brands are more focusing on short term goals today and not on the long term goals.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong. In my view, there's nothing wrong in focusing on the short-term goals, because that is your business need. But as long as your marketing strategy is very clear, this is what my brand stands for. This is what my brand needs to mean to my buyers, right? And for that, I will do this, and this is my short-term. This is my mid-term. That's my long-term. So that's fine. That approach is perfectly fine. But it needs to be a part of your overall strategy. It cannot be this. Okay, I just keep doing one thing. I do a short-term, and then you expect everybody to know your brand next year. You do ads, and because there's so much out there. There's so many brands that keep coming all the time, and with the AI right now, there's always every other day there's a brand that's coming in.
Got it.
Right. So it's important to have that mix. It's important to be consistent in that approach as well.
Got it. As a marketeer and as a marketing lead at 24/7 AI. What are the few things that you would want to tell your fellow marketers here who can be watching the show, in terms of how do they really start this entire humanizing the brand process? What are the 4 or 5 things that they need to be doing starting today, which will help them in this entire storytelling approach for their brand? Obviously not negating the short-term part of it, which is important, but how do they really get into this storytelling value?
So, in my opinion, I think my advice for the young marketers or fellow marketers would be that I think it's important for marketing folks to be creative. They need to start wearing the creative hat back. That's very, very important. When I say creative, you need to get creative in your approach, in your marketing approach. It could be that you may be creating a social media strategy, right? You could be writing content for social media posts. Get creative there. See how you can tell a story there. How your post can stand out better than compared to the other brands, right? It's important to wear the creative hat, right? And it's also important for the marketers to understand their brand. Sometimes we just assume certain things. Understand your brand, the brand that you're marketing. Understand what does your brand stands for. What are your brand's priorities for this year, next year, the next 3 years? Those understanding is very, very important. Based on these 2 things, I think you can create a marketing strategy, right? That really complements this, that works for this, right? And you can also take inspiration from some of the brands out there, right? And one of the most important thing is that don't ignore AI. At the same time, I don't think you should don't AI is not your answer, right? It should be an enabler for you.
It should be
it should make your life easier, right? Because the brief that you're going to give is what you're going to get, right? So use AI tools, use AI technology to influence your marketing strategy, to speed up your marketing strategy. So I think these are things that I want to leave them with. It's important to get creative, because at the end of the day, you're a marketing person. You need to be creative in every aspect of your day-to-day activities, right? And I want to leave them with some examples, you should go back and check the Dell examples. Like something in the past is they did a very interesting campaign called for SMB market, small and medium enterprise market. They did it's very simple. It's very creative. They're selling the laptops, accessories, maybe the small servers, right? The basic servers, and the campaign name is that I choose my path.
Correct.
That's what the SMB owners are very aspirational businesses. They use this tagline, they use this campaign line, and they run a whole campaign with that, with that campaign. So those are some of the things that you can learn your marketing strategies. How can you get creative, things like that. Another example that I want to talk about is, of course, Intel. Intel came out with a campaign called Intel Inside, and Intel is bought by the OEMs, not even by any consumers. Look at the kind of play that they played with that Intel Inside, because if that is not there, nothing works. Right? That's very interesting. So it's very.
They made it a household name, actually.
Absolutely, Intel Inside. I think this campaign must be 10 years old, maybe more, and still we talk about it. Right? Intel Inside is another interesting campaign that these are all done by being very creative in your approach, right? And they sold it to OEMs, they didn't sell it to customers. And the other campaign by Slack is work happens anywhere, right? So you're on the move, work happens anywhere. You don't need to really go to there's no 9 to 5 in the work happens anywhere.
Yes.
This is some of the campaigns that you can take inspiration and see how some of these ideas, right, some of this thought process can help your brand humanize and try and make your brand more creative, and then how it can relate to your consumers.
Very interesting. Very, very good examples. Really, I really like the Intel inside. I think that's how they're, and they've made all the OEMs actually to make Intel Inside part of their campaigns.
Absolutely.
And it's like a household name today. And if a laptop or a computer does not have Intel, then it's not a. That's how they made it. Obviously, there are other chip brands also, but I think Intel really did a great job. And I really agree to you also that when we need to stand out, it's not always that we need to be very loud and do something very extraordinary. Okay, like for example, powered by American Express.
Yes.
Or a very simple thing that or a very interesting or a fun thing that Salesforce has been doing. By creating characters.
Correct.
That's not something very loud, not something over the top, but something very, very different, which really, or probably, I won't say very different also, but very interesting, which really stands out. Okay, so it's not really always important to be that loud and do something extraordinary. So I'm really taking some really good insights from here, and my top 3 that I have taken from the conversation here is that one is it's very important to challenge the misconception that B2B brands can only be rational or functional. It's not the case. We can, or I can say B2B brands can also be emotional, and it has to be really
That's a misconception.
That's a misconception, yeah. Humanizing brands does not just mean, putting a brand ambassador or doing something very extraordinary, but I think it's decoding the fact that what your brand stands for, and that really, puts the human value out there, okay? And a great example is Rahul Dravid, Mr. Dependable, brand ambassador of Salesforce, okay, which is again which probably talks about we are the most dependable CRM platform. And the third thing is B2B brands, unlike B2C brands, need to have that balance between rational communication and emotional communication. So I think that's very, very important point. So this is what I take out from the conversation that from our conversation. Any other last points that you have, Vinod?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you summed it up really well, and those are some of those that were what I wanted to highlight. I think it's important for B2B market. See, there is a creative play in B2B, right? And marketers need to maybe understand it, accept it, right? And you have to constantly push towards that emotional factor. How can my brand be more human? How can my brand be more creative? How can my brand be more standing out in the market? I think that is very important. It is a constant push that marketers have to do. Correct. It's up to us how we do it, right? There is an opportunity.
Perfect. Thank you, Vinod, for your time
most
today.
Most welcome, sir.
And sharing your valuable insights. I think it was a very interesting conversation we had. I took something really important and interesting points from here, and I'm sure our fellow marketeers also take something from here. Thank you everyone for watching. For more such insights, please join us at B2B World Summit and Awards on March 20th, 2026 in Bangalore.